My dad said, "It's just too tight this year. Let's keep it simple, no kids." I said, "Understood." Then my son saw a TikTok. My sister's Pilates instructor, her nail tech, even the neighbor's cat, all around the tree at my parents' house. I took a photo of the labeled gifts and texted, "Already in the donation bin." 40 minutes later, my dad was at my door. When my dad called the first week of December and said, "This year there's just too much to do. Let's keep it simple, no kids," I was sitting in the school pickup line. I remember staring through the windshield, thinking, did I hear that right? I didn't argue. I didn't even ask what too much meant. I just said, "Sure," and hung up. I told my son Noah we'd be doing something different this year. Just the two of us. Maybe a cabin. He didn't ask why we weren't going to Grandma and Grandpa's. He was too busy showing me TikToks about Christmas pranks and dogs dressed as elves. A week passed. Then another. And then last Sunday, while we were baking cookies, Noah gasped and shoved his phone in my face. There on TikTok, in full holiday glory, was a carousel of videos from my sister's account. Her Pilates instructor doing shots next to the Christmas tree. Her manicurist, laughing in front of the fireplace. A real estate agent I vaguely recognized from town dancing to Mariah Carey with a mug of eggnog. Even Mrs. Langford's cat, my neighbor's cat, being fed bits of ham at the kitchen table. Noah didn't say a word. He just stared at me. I didn't ask questions. I didn't call anyone. I walked into my closet, pulled out the 4 bags of wrapped presents I had for my parents, sister, and her boyfriend, took a picture of the tags, and dropped them all into the donation basket at the church. I posted the picture to the family group chat with the caption, "Already in the donation basket. Merry Christmas. Exactly 40 minutes later, there was a knock at my door. It was my dad. And he wasn't alone. He was standing on the porch with my sister behind him, still in what looked like a cocktail dress under a coat. Her makeup was smudged, and she had that look she always gets when she's about to blame something on someone else. Next to them was a third person. A teenage girl. She was holding a tray of what looked like cookies wrapped in foil, like some kind of peace offering. I didn't say anything. Just stood there in the doorway. My dad looked past me into the house, then asked if he could come in. I moved aside. They all came in like it was a normal day, like it wasn't 3 days before Christmas and we weren't standing on a carpet of broken trust. My dad sat down without asking. My sister went straight for the kitchen, opened a drawer, took out a corkscrew, and popped open a bottle of wine she hadn't even brought. The girl, I still didn't know who she was, placed the cookies on the counter and smiled at Noah, who was watching from the hallway. My dad started talking like he was explaining a scheduling mishap. Something about too many people, too much going on, not enough space, the oven being broken for a few days. Nothing he said made sense. Finally I asked who the girl was. "She's Grace," my sister said. "She's our intern." Intern? Intern for what? My sister works at a boutique that sells overpriced candles and handbags with vegan leather tags. Since when do they need interns? That's when Grace spoke. Calmly. Like she had every reason to be there. "I've been staying with them," she said. "They invited me for Christmas because I'm not going home this year. I've been living there for 2 months. I looked at my dad. He didn't deny it. So not only had they lied to me and excluded my son, but they'd also brought a stranger into their house, given her our place, and tried to act like I was overreacting. I asked him one question. "Why her and not your grandson?" His answer wasn't what I expected. Not even close. He looked at me, then at Noah, and said it like he'd been rehearsing. "Because she needed it more." Just like that. Not angry. Not apologetic. Like it made perfect sense. I laughed. Not because it was funny but because it was so ridiculous I didn't know what else to do. "She needed it more than your own grandson?" He said Grace's dad had kicked her out. That she was working at my sister's shop part-time while finishing school. That she was sweet and polite and helped decorate the tree and didn't ask for anything. That she reminded him of Mom when she was young. That last part hit like a sucker punch. My mom died 4 years ago. Christmas hasn't been the same since. We'd all been floating around each other, pretending like the holidays still meant something. Apparently, this year they decided to fill the hole with someone new. Grace didn't say anything. Just stood there, still smiling that soft, practiced smile like she was trained for PR. My sister poured another glass of wine and leaned against the counter like we were in the middle of some casual Tuesday catch-up. She said I had misunderstood everything. That it wasn't about choosing Grace over us. It was just a different kind of Christmas. Smaller. More peaceful. Noah walked back into the room and picked up one of the cookies. He didn't eat it. Just looked at it, then looked at me. I told them they should leave. That's when Grace asked if she could speak to me alone. I almost said no, but I nodded. She followed me into the hallway. What she said next shifted the whole thing onto a track I didn't even know existed. We stepped into the hallway. She stood across from me, still holding that same calm expression like she was used to bad situations but never let them get to her. She didn't hesitate. "I didn't know you existed," she said. "Until last week." I stared at her. She continued. "They never mentioned you. Or Noah. They told me they had one daughter, no grandkids. I only found out when I saw your photo in a box in the garage." That didn't make sense. I'd been over there dozens of times. My photos were all over the house. Vacations, birthdays, school plays. I asked what box she meant. She said there were plastic storage bins labeled old decorations. She opened one looking for lights and found a stack of family albums. Photos of me, of Noah as a baby, even a card he'd made for my mom before she passed. All shoved in a bin under a broken wreath. I didn't say anything. I was trying to process if she was telling the truth or just playing both sides. "I asked your dad about it," she said. "He told me you didn't come around anymore. That you were hard to deal with. That your son didn't handle crowds well." I felt like someone had turned the air off in the house. "He said that. About Noah?" I went back into the living room. My dad was sitting on the couch. Sipping coffee like this wasn't about to tear us in half. My sister had the audacity to look surprised. I asked if what Grace said was true. He said it was. And then he said something else I'll never forget. "You always needed everything to be a certain way. We were tired. I told them to get out. They didn't argue." My sister slammed the door a little too hard on the way out. Grace paused, turned to me, and apologized again. "Not just for this, everything." Then she followed them to the car. I stood in the silence of my house for 5 minutes, maybe 10. Then Noah came in, holding the box of cookies. He asked if we could still go to the cabin. I said yes. But the night wasn't over. Not even close. Because 3 hours later, Grace came back. Alone. And what she brought with her wasn't just an apology. It was a letter. And it was from my mom. She was at the door with a backpack slung over one shoulder and an envelope in her hand. No cookies this time. No fake calm. Just a look like she had something too heavy to carry on her own. She asked if she could come in. I let her. Noah was asleep by then, finally settled after the mess of the evening. I walked her to the kitchen, and she laid the envelope on the counter like it was ticking. "It was in the same box," she said, "behind the photo albums." I wasn't going to say anything, but after tonight, I couldn't keep it to myself. She slid it across the counter. It was yellowed at the edges and sealed with one of those floral stickers my mom used for her holiday cards. My name was written on the front, in her handwriting. No mistaking it. The date in the corner was from 2 months before she died. I took it and sat down. Grace didn't sit. She just waited. It wasn't long. Just a page. But every word burned. Mom wrote about how proud she was of me, about how she knew I always felt like the outsider in our family, how I did things differently, but that didn't make them wrong. She said she worried that once she was gone, I'd be pushed out completely, that they'd make things easier for themselves by pretending I wasn't there. "I hope I'm wrong," she wrote. "But if I'm not, I hope you know it's not because of you. You were the best part of every Christmas." There was more. A lot of it too personal to repeat. But I folded it carefully and set it aside. I asked Grace why she brought it to me. She said, "Because I realized I was being used. They didn't take me in out of kindness. They took me in to replace something." Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a set of keys. "These were on the hook in the laundry room. I think they're to your mom's storage unit." "Storage unit?" She nodded. "There are a bunch of things in that house that feel off. Like someone was trying to hide parts of her. I think she left more behind. She didn't stay long after that. Just enough time to tell me she'd found a friend to stay with, and she was sorry for everything." I barely slept that night. The next morning, I dropped Noah off with a friend, drove to the address on the tag, and unlocked a unit I never knew existed. And that's where I found something that changed everything I thought I knew about my family. Something my dad never meant for me to see. The unit was in one of those older storage places out near the highway, with faded green roll-up doors and a keypad that still beeped like a microwave. I stood in front of it for a long time before I opened it. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe old decorations, maybe nothing at all. What I found instead was a life packed into boxes. Neatly labeled, just like my mom used to do. Emily, birthdays. Noah, school. Letters. Mom's journals. The air inside was thick with dust and cold. I pulled open the first box and saw birthday cards I'd made her as a kid, little crafts Noah had made that I hadn't seen in years. There were envelopes I'd mailed her, still in their postmarked sleeves, stuff I'd written from college, during Noah's first year, during the time we didn't talk much. She'd saved them all. I sat down on a plastic crate and cried in a way I hadn't since the day she died. Then I opened the box marked, letters. Inside were dozens of envelopes addressed to me, none of which I'd ever received. Most were written in her handwriting. Some were typed. A few had notes in the margins, things she jotted down like reminders. There were even a few addressed to Noah. She wrote to us regularly. She'd been writing even in the last weeks, when my dad told us she couldn't talk anymore. I recognized the letterhead, Notes from the Hospice Center. In one, she said she wished we could spend one more Christmas together, that she had gifts wrapped and hidden in the attic, because she didn't want Dad or my sister to pick them out, that she hoped I'd find them one day. But here's the part that made my hands shake. There was a note from the hospice chaplain, paperclipped to one letter, dated 4 days before she passed. It said, patient requested these letters be mailed in the event of her passing. Husband declined, citing stress and timing. He never sent them. He never told me they existed. He'd taken her final words, boxed them up, and hidden them from me. I stayed in that unit for over 2 hours, reading through years of things I was never meant to see, at least not if he had anything to say about it. When I got home, I didn't call him. I didn't send a message. Instead, I printed a copy of the chaplain's note, took a photo of the unopened letters, and mailed them, along with a copy of my mom's final letter, to his address. No note from me. No explanation. Just the truth he buried. He didn't respond. Not for weeks. Until one day in January, a plain white envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was one line, written in his handwriting. You were never supposed to find any of this. And that's when I knew the distance between us wasn't just about a holiday. It was built, brick by brick, by a man who couldn't handle being loved the way my mother loved me. And that's why Noah and I spent Christmas morning in a cabin 2 states away, watching the snow fall in silence, opening the few gifts I found in that attic, wrapped in the paper she always used, gold stars, silver ribbon, with her handwriting on the tags. To Noah. To Emily. Love. Mom.